What's up, guys? Welcome into Burn Dog Sports, and today we're going to be talking about my top 25 teams through week 2. So let's get right into it. At number 25, I have Clemson. Yes, they lost to Duke, but they still have the potential to go and win the ACC. Clay Klubnik honestly didn't look terrible against Duke. He just didn't get many chances because his teammates kept fumbling the ball in the red zone. Dabo Swinney will be under a lot of pressure if he doesn't turn this season around, which is why I think he will. But I don't see them winning the ACC over a very good Florida State team. At number 24, I have UCLA. Dante Moore looks legit. In his first 2 games in college football, he went for a combined stat line of 24 for 39, 433 yards, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 pick. The Pac-12 is the best conference this year, and I don't even think it's close. I think UCLA gets to 9 wins this year, which would be very impressive, led by a true freshman QB in Dante Moore. At number 23, I have Washington State. In a dying Pac-12, Washington State is looking to have a statement year so that they maybe can join another conference. And so far, they are doing just that. Led by transfer dual-threat QB Cameron Ward, they have looked really good so far, with a statement win over Wisconsin in a very hostile environment. I'm going to say this probably a lot in this video, and I already did. The Pac-12 is the best conference in college football. So I don't see Wazoo staying in the top 25 for very long, but as of now, they belong there. At 22, I have Duke. Mike Elko has something brewing in Durham, North Carolina, and I love it. Duke has always been known as a basketball school, and they still are, but why can't they be both? Mike Elko won ACC Coach of the Year last year, winning 9 games in his first season as Duke head coach, and they have looked even better this season, already knocking off a top 10 team at the time in Clemson. Riley Leonard has looked really good at QB, but they mostly lean on their defense and they love running the ball. This is a very physical team, as you expect, under defensive-minded head coach in Mike Elko, and I'm very high on this team and think that they could actually compete for an ACC title this year. But we'll see what they're really made of when they play Notre Dame in a few weeks. Next, at 21, I have Miami. Mario Cristobal was always confident on his chances at being successful in Miami, but many fans doubted his ability to recruit at a big school. I don't think they're doubting that anymore, after bringing in one of the best classes at Miami in a decade in 2023, and he's followed that up by winning. Yes, there's only been 2 games, but Miami has looked good in both, especially against Texas A&M. Led by an explosive offense, this team put a whooping on A&M, winning the game 48-33 in Miami. I think it'll be between Miami and Florida State for the ACC title, which will be great for college football to have both these teams back and playing well. At 20, I have North Carolina. There's not much to say about this team other than Drake May is really good, as we all know. The defense struggled against Appalachian State, but that's not going to be their strong suit. If Drake May plays as good as he can, especially with the weapons he has at receiver, I think he will be in New York as a Heisman finalist. All of this to say that this team can compete with anyone on a good day with the offensive firepower that they have. At number 19, we have Colorado. Just wow. All the talk in college football belongs to Deion Sanders and this Colorado football team led by stars Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Coming into the season, I knew that they had the skilled players, but I thought they would be bullied at the line of scrimmage, and I was wrong, at least so far. I'm still hesitant to buy the hype surrounding this team just because I haven't seen them play anybody to the caliber of teams that they are going to have to play in the Pac-12 each week. We'll learn how good they actually are pretty fast when they start Pac-12 play with back-to-back games against tough teams in Oregon and USC. At number 18, we have Oklahoma. Brett Venables has this team rolling. We knew he would get the defense ready since he is a defensive-minded coach, especially after they were embarrassed on defense last year. But this offense has surprised me, and if they can stay healthy, I think they can get in the Big 12 this year. With the Red River rivalry in a couple weeks, they need to stay healthy and get everything right heading into what will be the last Red River rivalry in the Big 12. At number 17, we have LSU. This team had a lot of hype heading into their second season under Brian Kelly, and all of that hype disappeared after a blowout loss to Florida State to open the season. Brian Kelly just never seems to be able to win the big games to get his team over the hump, but they rebounded with a massive win over Grambling State this week. But unfortunately, heading into the SEC with 1 loss already puts them at a major disadvantage to make the college football playoff. I think this team ends up disappointing even more and only ending the season with 9 wins. I just don't think this team is that good. Their secondary is weak, and their O-line got bullied against Florida State. If they want to have any chance to make the SEC championship even, they need to get those things figured out, and quickly. with a tricky matchup against Mississippi State in Starkville this weekend. At number 16, we have Kansas State. Kansas State is being slept on again. Coming into the season, no one was talking about them being Big 12 contenders, just like last year when they actually won the Big 12. They have another elite defense, as always, under head coach Chris Kleinman, and their offense looks good as well. Their offense, though, doesn't have to be great. It just needs to be decent and rely on their defense and their home crowd, which is one of the loudest and most hostile in all of college football. I have them ahead of Oklahoma, so I obviously believe that this team can and will compete for a Big 12 championship, which for some reason I feel like they always do. At number 15, I have Ole Miss. I never thought Lane Kiffin would be the guy to take Ole Miss to the top of the SEC, and I don't think that they will this year, but they have gotten better and better every single year under Lane Kiffin, and this team is no different. Jackson Dart looked sensational in crunch time against Tulane, which is also a really good team, and they have one of the best running backs in the country in true sophomore Quinshon Judkins. Lane Kiffin is always going to have a good offense, but their defense surprised me against Tulane, even though Tulane QB Chris Pratt got injured. If this defense is as good as they have looked so far, I think this team could do some damage in the SEC. Alright, now we're getting into the top 15, and I think all of these teams could find a spot in the college football playoffs. At number 14, we have Oregon State. I'm convinced DJ Uiagalelei just hated Dabo Swinney at Clemson, because at Oregon State, he looks like the QB he was recruited to be coming out of high school. He didn't play much this week in a blowout win, but in his Oregon State debut, he had 5 total touchdowns and threw for 250 yards. His numbers aren't crazy, but that's because in both games, he's come out early and they've been running the ball up since they have been up by so many points. No, they haven't played anybody yet, but this defense also looks really good. Coming into the season, this was my sleeper pick to win the Pac-12, but I don't think anyone is sleeping on them anymore. At number 13, we have Tennessee. Joe Milton in this offense under Josh Heupel looked really good against a weak Virginia defense, but then were pretty underwhelming this week against an even worse team in Austin Peay. This offense has a potential, but we haven't seen it fully click yet. They play Florida this week, and this will be their toughest test yet, and they can't afford to make mistakes they made against Austin Peay. Against a Florida team that isn't great, but is still talented enough to keep it close. However, this defense looks like it has solved some of their secondary issues, and I think that if this offense clicks, this team could make it all the way to the college football playoffs. At number 12, we have Oregon, another team in this stacked Pac-12. Led by QB Bo Nix, who I feel like has been playing college football for my entire life, this Oregon team has some quiet hype building up. Bo Nix has a chance to be a Heisman finalist, and their offense is just all around explosive. However, their defense just isn't playing as good as they should, and the only reason they beat Texas Tech is because Tech couldn't stop shooting themselves in the foot late in that game. This team still has the potential to compete in the Pac-12, but they need to get some things figured out, which is why I have them at 12 when their talent should have them ranked in the top 10. At number 11, I have Utah. Utah would also be ranked higher if I wasn't so worried about the health of QB Cam Rising. He has sat out both games, and they seem to be downplaying the severity of this injury. They were still able to beat Florida without him, but the Pac-12 is just too strong for them to be playing 2 QBs because neither of them are good enough. However, if this team gets healthy, they are my pick to win the Pac-12 over Washington and USC. But right now, they have to stay outside the top 10 looking in. Now let's get into top 10. At 10, I have Washington. I'm lower on Washington than a lot of people, and that's because I don't think they're physical or big enough at the line of scrimmage to compete. Yes, their offensive skill players and QBs are elite, but none of that matters if they can't get a big enough push to run the ball or to pressure the QB. Michigan State this week will be their biggest test yet, and I'm interested to see how they play against Michigan State without Mel Tucker, who was just suspended. This is a little bit of a trap game due to the fact that this will be a fired-up Sorensen team playing for their coach. If Washington can show me they're physically capable of taking over a game at the line of scrimmage, all of this will change, but until then, they'll stay as pretenders for me. At 9, we have Alabama. Well, Alabama has a lot to fix after that loss, but I'm confident they will. Nick Saban's teams always get better throughout the season, but they might need a QB change for that to happen. Jalen Milroe won the job, but that wasn't announced until the first week of the season, so it's obviously a tough decision for Saban. So why not try someone else out? They can't be much worse than what Jalen Milroe played like against Texas, and they have one game to figure it out before starting SEC play against Ole Miss. I think they could be ranked lower than this, but they're always going to get the benefit of the doubt under the greatest coach of all time in Nick Saban. At number 8, I have Notre Dame. Does Notre Dame finally have an offense? I personally think so. Marcus Freeman has recruited well and got some absolute studs out of the transfer portal. Most importantly, their starting QB, Sam Hartman, who so far has looked like a Heisman candidate. I don't think he will be, but as long as he's just good enough with this defense, they are going to have a chance in every single game on their schedule. We'll figure out how good they actually are when they play Ohio State in 2 weeks, in a game that I'm really excited for. But as of now, they look like playoff contenders to me. At number 7, I have USC. A lot of people are probably shocked that I have USC this low, but I just don't trust Alex Grinch or Lincoln Riley to field a good defense. They look awfully similar to the teams Riley had at Oklahoma. The only difference is USC is in a way harder conference than the conference Oklahoma was playing in at the time. Caleb Williams is obviously the best QB in the country and is leading one of, if not the best offense in the country, but they can only do so much. In allowing 28 points to hit San Jose State shows us just how bad this defense truly is. I wouldn't be shocked if the Pac-12 all beats each other up and they end up being the best conference in college football, but still without a team in the college football playoffs. At number 6, I have Ohio State. I'm not going to hit on Ohio State's offense and Ryan Day like a lot of other people, but I will say that I am worried about this offense under freshman quarterback Kyle McCord. He looked better against Youngstown State than he did against Indiana, but over half the population of football fans don't even know who Youngstown State is, so that game really didn't even matter. They struggled to put up points against Indiana, and what's even more worrisome is that Marvin Harrison was MIA. Obviously, he followed that up with a massive week against Youngstown State, but he needs to be that target McCord can rely on for this team to go as far as they want to. I currently have Ohio State as only the 3rd best team in the Big Ten, behind Penn State and Michigan. At number 5, I have Penn State. Drew Allard is an absolute stud. Nick Singleton is a stud. Katron Allen is a stud. Now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about this team as a whole. I personally think this is the best team James Franklin has had in his tenure at Penn State. If he can't win with this team, it's time to question if he's the right person for the job. Unfortunately, it's a tough year in the Big Ten, and it's going to be hard to beat either Ohio State or Michigan, but I think they can. I'm not saying they will, but they are definitely capable of winning the Big Ten and making the college football playoff. At number 4, I have Michigan. Hate me all you want, but Michigan has not been impressive at all. It looks like the same team that has lost in the first round of the college football the last 2 years. They have a good defense, good running game, but they're not explosive enough to be the top teams in the country, or at least they haven't shown they are yet. Still a good team, but nothing better than what they have been. Maybe that'll change, but I haven't seen enough to convince me of that yet. At number 3, we have Texas. I've never been more high on a Texas Longhorn team in my life, and I'm a Texas fan. This team is different. Quinn Ewers, yeah, he's that guy. This defense as a whole is one of the best units in the country. Coming into the year, I was really high on this offense, but I thought our defense would let us down. And boy, was I wrong. This defense is actually better than the offense. We are that good. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We're still Texas, and we haven't proven that we can get out of our own ways and not play down to the competition and lose to some trash Big 12 team. But for now, I'm drinking all the Kool-Aid. This team might finish the season 15-0. Yes, I said it. At number 2, I have Florida State. Their win over LSU was even more convincing than Texas's win over Alabama, which is why I give them the edge over Texas. Talent-wise, I don't think they're better, but they have the biggest win in college football so far, so they deserve all of the hype they are getting. But they can't get ahead of themselves. The ACC has some very tricky teams, especially now that Clemson has that one loss and will be playing for their lives every week. Their season might come down to that Miami game on November 11th, but as of now, I have this team making the college football playoff. At number 1, as the best team in the nation, I have Georgia. There's really not much other to say than they haven't lost their spot as the best team in the country. When you win back-to-back championships, you have to prove to us that you aren't the best team in the country, and they haven't done that. All they have done is dominate the teams they should dominate. But they can't think they're better than everyone else, or the SEC will eat them up. But Kirby Smart knows that, and there's no way he allows that to happen. I think they roll all the way to the college football playoffs again, and then at that point, anything can happen. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you next time on Brand Dog Sports.